I was in here listening to YouTube videos and playing Sims while sitting on the couch. Kiddo's in bed. It's late. I just couldn't sleep, and suddenly I started hearing sounds outside, and at first, like, it just sort of built. And sometimes you hear some things, but then I was like, wait a minute, it sounds like the trash cans outside. And I went to check the cameras, and the system is saying that we don't even have anything set up. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm not doing this again. Because, of course, it's whenever you have a problem that this happens. So, when there's daylight, I will go outside with my walker and maybe something I can hit somebody with if they're out there, or, you know, something. And I will check things out. I will probably do that before G gets home, although he will probably prefer it if he checked whenever he got home. But it would just make me feel better to check, because there is technology that can do this. And if someone like just saw that we didn't have a car and thought that nobody was home and that they could just disable stuff and break in and like hope that there was something of value, and I'm gonna be honest, there's probably nothing that they would get anything for. I mean, even my computer is... Well, see, I know it's fine now, because Lucky's kind of telling Maggie, stay away from me, you're too close. Because it got to the point, you know, I checked on Kiddo, I made sure that everything was okay. And, yeah, better half is at work, and I let him know what was going on. So, if something happens, you know, if he calls and I don't want to answer the phone right now, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah. So, Lucky and Maggie have this thing where they don't like to be, like, in close proximity, mostly because Lucky's kind of been a dick. I get it. He's been the kitten for 12 years. He's been the youngest of cats, of two cats, for 12 years. And, you know, nothing happened. He was just kind of, get away from me, you know, and Maggie got away from him and it stopped. But while this was going on, they kind of like converged on me, like they were trying to guard me from something, and they were staring at the carport door like they expected someone to try and come through, or they were just... And even beforehand, Maggie was staring at the door with, you know, to attention, like there's a sound out there, there's something going on. And I don't know, they've relaxed. Like, they're like, okay. Like, they're cautious, but they're relaxed now. Like, okay, whatever it was, if I'm going off their behavior, it should be gone by now. But I'd be lying if I said it was that simple. Because I'm really uneasy and I can't pull up the camera. It won't pull up. I wonder if it wasn't someone that was just trying to find some place to sleep or something. But I don't know. That's what I want to think. But with the alarm system completely disengaging, like as if we never even installed anything to begin with, we have sensors on pretty much all the doors and windows. And we have cameras. And I can verify that the sensors are at least still there. One of the cameras is outside, so I need to wait. So all of these measures that were put in place are suddenly disabled. And that alone is scary. Like, just by itself, that something just could just poof. Is scary. And right now, it's just us two home alone. With, the cats, me, and a 10-year-old who's sleeping. And I'm probably going to check on him again here soon, just to make sure. This is actually why we have this stuff. Because before, we had some suspicious instances. We've had things happen. It's been a while, because most of the people on the street figured out that, like, someone lived here, and I guess word got out, someone lives here, even though we don't have a car, that kind of marks it, that someone lives here. So we stopped getting that stuff for the most part. The people who look over the fence, they're looking to see, is there someone on vacation from this house? Which doesn't make sense to me, because this isn't even like that kind of neighborhood. Like, you might have like a person who moved here because they didn't realize it wasn't a well-off neighborhood. Like, from California or something. Who, like, decided that they were gonna pay more money than something was worth because they had more money than brains or something. I don't know. But for the most part, this is the kind of neighborhood where, like, sidewalks don't get taken care of, and even the streets are kind of neglected a little. Like, people just kind of work hard and do their best. And their best is often workable for most people. But it's not glamorous. It's not like, those rich neighborhoods where everybody's lawn is pristine and all that. Most people around here are actually rather forgiving if, It takes you a couple days to get to your weeds. Especially, like, right after rain, because it, like, these fuckers, they don't take very long to grow, because any weeds that grow here are super aggressive. They have deep roots, and you may need a couple days just to, like, find the, because you may actually need, like, special tools or even a chemical solution if that isn't working, or you aren't physically capable, and people just usually don't bother you much around here about it. Like, everybody gets to it when they're able. I mean, I guess if someone let it go, like, too far, someone might say something. But too far would be, like, where you've got dry stuff all around you, and that's a fire hazard. You know, where you've got, like, 3 to 5 feet of it, because they can get that tall. Easy. If you don't do anything about them, they can easily get that tall. But no, because before this stuff happened where I couldn't do it anymore, I took the weed whacker behind the shed where we hadn't thought to go for a little bit. It wasn't dry either, and I had to fix the weed whacker and rethread it 3 times, because some of that stuff, you don't really realize how big it can get. I mean, just around the stems, because nobody lets it get that big unless it's behind something, and nobody goes back there and you just didn't realize that could happen. We haven't let that happen since. But that happened once. And I imagine that, like, if you let your yard out front get like that, someone would say something. Because that's just out of control. But in general, if you have a few weeds in the yard, this is not the neighborhood where people are freaking out. I did see a picture online once on one of the, like, websites that documents properties where there was Photoshop weeds out front, which was really weird. I don't know why people do that stuff. And it was really obvious too, like, if you knew what that looked like. That was weird. You would have to just never have seen anything like that to even think that it was even remotely real. And that was ridiculous. Still bugs me. Like, I still ask myself why someone does that. I just imagine some people have way too much time on their hands, and they just do stuff just to be assholes, just because they can, and they want to see what will happen, and if anybody will notice, or, and the thing is, even if people notice, they may not necessarily react in a way that you can see. Some things, it's just, yeah, I wonder if it was the teenager across the street or something. Like, that sort of thing. Like, no, don't do stuff like that. It can actually impact people. Like, someone from the city can actually go out and may actually need to go out, and sometimes they won't do their job, and they will find first and show up to investigate later. And that didn't happen to us. Like, I don't even think anything like that even happened, but it can, and I think that that's reason enough just not to. If you're gonna do something like that, like, I don't know, make it super obvious, like, Photoshop, like, something ridiculous, not weeds or something, but if you're going to Photoshop something, into the front yard of somewhere where someone lives. Make it something that absolutely no one is going to believe is real. Hey, leave my foot alone. Like, I don't know, a woolly mammoth. Like, or a pink elephant or something. Like, nobody's going to think anybody has a pink elephant in their yard. And if they do, they're kind of a dumbass. I mean, that's something I would physically need to see to believe. That's for me. Like, I don't know. Don't do stuff that can actually hurt people. Like, if you're gonna Photoshop something like that, like, make it something stupid. Like, I'm not against, like, proving that stuff is alterable. And being like, hey, how much can I get away with without anybody noticing? But make sure that it's done in a way that can't hurt anybody. And that can't, like, be brought up because someone doesn't know what Photoshop looks like. Because there are telltale signs for it. And I recognize it. Because I used to use a student version whenever I still had access to it, because I don't have access to the email. I still have the discs, but the email that was used to, like, get the codes that, like, had all that stuff, I don't have access to that anymore. So I think I have stuff written down somewhere, but I just can't find it. But I used to use it for drawing and stuff. I never used it for actual Photoshop. Because, you know, a lot of artists just use stuff like that, you know, to just draw on the computer. But there comes a point, you know, whenever you've seen the rendering enough. Whenever you've done an image and then you've experimented with different things just to see. And you'll look at it and you'll see some of those same things. And then, you know, if you look at Photoshops that are known Photoshops, you will see some of the same mistakes. Most people who have seen enough Photoshop will recognize most Photoshops. This was pretty obvious, like, really obvious. Like, they barely even bothered with any sort of lighting or shadow. It was kind of flat, like, compared to the rest of it. But they bothered with enough someone, like, could have probably, like, seen in passing and not realized that, you know, what had happened there. Or that some things were literally repeating themselves. If it wasn't something that, like, could have affected us, I might have even have thought it was funny. Because it was stupid. But I don't think that sort of thing is funny, because I understand that there are adult consequences if somebody takes it seriously. But, like, yeah, if you're going to, like, prove how vulnerable a system is, by doing something like that, or just see what you can get away with, make it something, like, really stupid. That people will know, you know? And for goodness sakes, protect your IP. So, like, make sure your IP address is not implicated. Use a VPN. And, you know, all that good stuff. Obviously, if you're doing that stuff, you should already know how to do that. If it's just harmless fun, I don't advocate hunting people down. you know, it's not a public bathroom or something, but some of these companies will. Or, you know, some people just get irrationally angry because a literal child was able to get into something that they claim is really secure. And there are 12-year-olds that know exactly how unsecure it is. And sometimes the adults that think that that stuff is safe need the reminder. And sometimes the companies that know it's not safe but want everybody to think so need the wake-up call that it is way obvious that it's not. And some of the people that don't know as much about technology, you know, they need to see that. So, you know what? I'm of the mind that don't get caught. If you do that stuff, don't get caught. And make sure that it doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, I guess I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. There's some things you can't really stop people from doing. So it's more like you should just redirect them to what doesn't do harm. So you can't stop things entirely. So at some point, you just gotta be like, okay, if you're gonna do it, at least be careful. Be careful you don't hurt anybody. Be careful nobody can use it to hurt you. That's the basic principle. And also that it doesn't hurt you outright. I mean, you don't want to be indirectly hurt or directly hurt by it, and you don't want it to directly or indirectly hurt anybody else. So go through and think about it before you do it. If you do it. Except I know people do these things. And it's stupid. It's not like that anymore. But it was like that, like, somewhere at the beginning of the pandemic. It was like 6 months in. Somebody was probably just bored as shit. And like, how much of this can I get away with? And nobody will look. Yeah, somebody was definitely bored as shit. So it's not like that anymore. As every once in a while I check, you know, just to make sure, especially whenever the landlord starts regarding us like people, you know, actually talking to us and acting like he cares. Oh, sorry, Lucky. Nicked his paw with my butt while I was re-sitting down. It's hard to maneuver. It was really faint. It's probably nothing, but I turned off the fan so that I can hear better. Usually I keep that on specifically so that I don't key into every little sound. It's usually better if there is more noise going. But like, if something has happened and you have reason to like worry and listen a little more closely, it's usually better to make things quiet. It's probably nothing. But it's better to be safe than sorry. So, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then I'm going to come back out here and kind of keep watch for a while, because all it takes is one thing for me to basically be on edge for the rest of the night. I'm going to basically be keeping watch because our alarm system is disabled right now. Like, and I don't mean turned off. I mean, I know I already said it. Shit freaks me out. Because see, they may parade around and be like, oh yeah, totally fine, like, but there are proven ways to get past it. And I'm a tech nerd, among other things, so I may not be able to do it myself, but I understand because I don't have the equipment, not because I don't know how. I don't want the equipment. I don't want to do that, but I understand the principle, and I understand how it happens. And because I know that that is a thing, seeing this makes me really uneasy. And being like, you don't realize how much you rely on checking the cameras. You know, checking the camera out just out front. And, you know, until you can't. And then you're like, shit. So here I am back to sitting in the dark with all the outside lights on. Because if I'm sitting in the dark and the outside lights are on, say somebody sneaks onto the back patio, I will see them before they see me. Although with my laptop in front of me, that may change. So it puts light on my face. If you want to be like invisible to somebody, be in absolute darkness in contrast to a really bright light, and they will be in the bright light. It is really fucking scary, but it's something I learned while I was homeless. Probably in one of the worst situations that you might have to ever learn that sort of thing. I've talked about it before. It's messed up. Anyway, I'm gonna end this entry because I'm kind of scared, and I'm just gonna keep on repeating myself.